Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm filming another review. I decided to take a break from doing some work and I thought, you know what, I feel like filming some reviews today. And I've just filmed 2 other reviews and now I'm on to the 3rd one. You'll probably be able to tell because I've just been wearing the same clothes. I have to be in a very specific mood to film reviews. I don't know why. I don't know. Anybody else feel like that? Who knows? But anyway, let's actually get to the review. So in this review, I'm going to be reviewing Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Now, I picked this book kind of randomly. I got this book, I don't know, last year or the year before that, and I've been wanting to read it for a while. But I know it's a heavy book. I know it's pretty heavy. It's pretty intense. And so I knew I had to be in a very specific mood. I've been wanting to read Octavia E. Butler for ages now. And I just thought, you know what, let's just pick it up. I've been mood reading massively. And I thought maybe Octavia E. Butler can kick me out of this little funk that I've had over the last kind of couple of months in terms of my reading. Kindred, I'm not going to give a synopsis because I feel like everybody knows what Kindred is about, but all right, I'll give a very short one. So we follow a character called Dana as she time travels to the south and meets her ancestors, one of whom is a white plantation owner and one of whom is a black slave. If that doesn't tell you the kind of heaviness of the themes, you know, use your initiative because it's covering some very intense stuff, but I think it's done in a very sensitive way. This is one of those books that I don't even know how you can possibly rate it because I think it's just so well written that there is, I mean, I'm going to just give you a heads up. I have no critique of this book because of the way that it's written and because of the fact that it's so sensitive to the topics that it's covering and the fact that it's not this kind of very black and white representation of slavery and race in America. Like it's much more complex than that, which in some ways it is and in other ways it's not, but I think she does a wonderful job of representing that in a very specific way. But anyway, let's go into what I really loved about this book. Now obviously it's going to sound weird to say that I enjoyed things about this book because obviously this book is very heavy. So when I say that, I don't mean that I enjoyed the themes. Obviously I didn't because they're very tough to think about. It's more just that I enjoy the way that she did it. Number one thing I love about this book, not going to be a surprise to anybody, the characters. Now I really love Dana as a character. I think she's a really compelling individual, but I think where she really shines is when she interacts with other characters, specifically Rufus Whalen, who is the plantation owner and who is her ancestor. And then also the relationship with her husband, Kevin Franklin, who is white. As I mentioned, sorry, I'm going to go a little bit back and forth in this review because I'm not really reviewing it. I'm more just kind of giving my random thoughts on it. The interesting thing about this book is that in the present day that these characters are in, the status of black people is no longer what it once was. Slavery by that point is abolished. You know, black people and white people can marry. Obviously, and there's a lot more freedom. It's really interesting to see how her relationship and her perception of her husband changes. It doesn't fully change, but it does change now and then. She asks herself these kind of questions that are really interesting questions as she comes face to face with the realities of what it was like to be black in the South however many years before. I'll insert how many years because I can't remember off the top of my head. Rufus Whalen is a really interesting character because he eventually becomes the plantation owner. We meet him from a very young age and then we meet him up until the point when he's like a grown adult man and he's the owner of the plantation. He's such a perplexing individual because he's very young at the start and we're trying to understand that he's a child who is surrounded by an incredibly racist father. You can't entirely blame him for how he turns out, but then the fact that he gets these interactions with Dana and other slaves on the plantation, by the way, when he's younger, so some of whom are his friends, you do wonder, well, you know, you've seen it, this is wrong. Like, at what point do you make somebody culpable for their own actions, right? Beyond their parents? Like, is it when you hit 18 years old and that's it? Or is it before that? Is it after that? Like, I don't know. At what point can you truly start thinking independently is a question that kind of came up to me after I finished reading this book that I thought was really interesting. Another thing that I really loved about this book, I'm just going to stop there on characters because I could talk about characters forever. The one thing I will just mention is that the characters are really fleshed out. This book is really short. It's about like 200 pages long, The characters are really fleshed out. They're very distinct. They're very well developed by the end of the story. And you're very invested in each character, even the ones you don't like. You're invested because you want to know what happens. This is a very plot-heavy, thematic-heavy book, but the characters are equally as fleshed out as everything else. In terms of what else I really liked, I really like her writing style. It's almost quite clinical, which I really liked. There is emotion, but the emotion is attached to the characters rather than the way that she tells the story, if that makes sense. For me, I've said this before, and I'm sure I will say it many, many times again, I don't really like it when I get given a preachy message, even when it's a message that I entirely agree with, by the way. I don't like to be told how to think. I just want to be presented with the story, and then I can come to my own conclusions about how I feel about that thing. I think Butler does that absolutely perfectly. I think she's actually one of the few authors that I've read ever who has done that in a way that I'm very, very satisfied with 100% of the way. You feel the desperation and the trauma through the characters. They are the vehicles for that. Whereas the writing of the plot and the world building, all of that, it's very like straightforward and to the point, and I think that balance is perfect. The next thing that I really liked was the pacing. The pacing is incredible. It starts straight away. We start getting the time travel right from the start, and it wraps up really, really well. Like, I really like the ending of the book. I really like the way that she hit the notes in each chapter. Every single chapter matters. Every single interaction matters. She is a very intentional writer, which is, if you've been watching my channel for a while, I think I just saw a dragonfly. Unfortunately not a dragon, but I'm pretty sure I just saw a dragonfly like whizzing past my window. Kind of wish I'd taken a video now. Anyway, but she's very intentional. She doesn't waste words. And I've mentioned this before, that I really like my authors to be very intentful in the way that they write, because not everybody is like that, and she's definitely one of those. Next, it's a non-linear narrative. It works really well. I think she does a really excellent job of writing in that format. I don't typically like non-linear narratives, but I think she did it perfectly. And this is really just me giving you a heads up that it is non-linear, but it doesn't impact the overall storytelling. The next thing that I really like, obviously, are the themes. And when I say I like them, I just like the way that she discusses them. Obviously, the book is centered around slavery and master-slave power dynamics, about how women are treated generally, but then specifically Black women, the idea of using humans as a commodity. This really is just a critique on American history, right? And the treatment of Black people in that history. I'll be honest, it's not an easy read. It's pretty heavy. It's very vivid and very descriptive in many regards, which I think a lot of people might struggle with. For me, I mean, even like I said, I think she writes the desperation and the trauma into the characters so well that you can feel the pain coming from those people. And that is not going to be for everybody, so just bear that in mind. But the reflections that she has, look, I don't want to speak for her, but I think she has a really interesting take on American history. I think if you are an American, I think everybody should read. I was about to say, if you're an American, you should read this book, but honestly, I think everybody should read this book. I don't think it really matters whether you're Black or you're white, or you're a woman or you're a man, you're young or you're old. I mean, don't read it if you're like super young, but like, it's one of those books that is like timeless. Like, I genuinely think this is like a timeless classic. Even though it's talking about 20th century America, a lot of the things that she talks about are extremely relevant today, which I don't know if that's a good thing, because it makes me think that we haven't really progressed that much as a society. I mean, obviously we do have slavery still. We don't have slavery as we maybe once knew it. Slavery still exists for sure. Modern slavery is a whole nother thing, and we won't get into that right now. But slavery as we know it in America and in the UK to some extent, in the kind of 19th, 20th century, doesn't exist. But the fact that a lot of what she says is still relevant makes me think that we've still got a really long way to go, So yeah, this is a book that will make you think. This is a book that will make you feel very emotional. This is a book that I think you have to be in the right frame of mind, but I think you can get a lot from it. So if you want to learn and you want to be challenged and you want to be you know, you want to question like how things are today, then I think you should pick up this book. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I gave it a 5 stars, right? I had absolutely no issues with the book. I think it's phenomenal. I think Butler is an absolutely incredible writer, and I think she's written an absolutely incredible book that everybody should read. I will be reading more Octavia E. Butler for sure. I want to read The Parable of the Sower next. Might be buddy reading that with my friend Charmaine, which I'm really excited about. And then I want to read some of her other stuff as well, because she's written a lot of books. But if you have any questions on the content of the book, because I'm very wary of like content warnings and stuff like that, don't hesitate to just ping me on any of my channels and ask me, and I can kind of give you a bit more color. I'm always wary about giving spoilers, but don't hesitate to just let me know and I can give a little bit more color. But this book is fantastic and you should go read it. I should have just said that at the start and cut it short. Thanks for watching, folks. Definitely let me know if you've read this book, because I would love to talk it through with you all. Let me know how it impacted you specifically, because I think it's a very emotional book and it impacts us all in one way or another. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next one, folks. Stay safe, take care, and I'll speak to you soon, as always. Ciao.